Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review to continue the current collaboration of Friday the 13th movie reviews that I'm currently doing with two other guys, one being the guy who kicked it all off once again, Stranger Grayson. Great reviewer, really enjoy this young man's reviews. Apparently Grayson's going to take a little bit of a break for the week because he's going on vacation, so just in case you guys didn't know that, he'll be back probably, I think he said like at the end of the week or something, I don't know. But he'll be back and he'll be uploading soon in case you don't see uploads from him for a couple of days. And I'm going to try to catch up in the meantime. I think Goosebumps Boy, the other young man that I'm happening to collab with in this group, will also be catching up in the meantime. I think he's on I'm thinking about Star Wars. I'm sorry. I'm playing Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga right now. It's really throwing me off. I keep calling everything an episode, not a chapter in a book. Just an episode. Anyway, I think he's on movie number 4, the final chapter, and I think he's slowly working his way up to where we are. Of course, this review is for Part 7, A New Blood. Or The New Blood, excuse me. Those guys, really good reviewers. I recommend you check them out. I have the link to their channels on my description section of my video in case you want to go subscribe, and I recommend it too. They give out some great content in case you haven't watched their stuff before. Anyway, as I revealed, this is review number 7 for movie number 7. The New Blood. Came out in 1988. Right? Really? I mean, I guess, but that's weird. That explains a lot about this movie. Okay, my eye itches. I'm sorry. The New Blood. Where do I even begin with this? This is the one that is basically Carrie versus Jason. And everybody says that for every review, but I have a lot of other interesting things to say about this movie that I feel like many of you are not going to agree with, and some things I think you might agree with. Just tune in, I guess, if you give a shit. The New Blood is Carrie versus Jason, essentially. There's a young girl named Tina, and when she's a little girl, we follow in the beginning of the movie, she is at home, her dad is a drinker, he keeps hitting her mom. She gets mad, she gets in her boat outside of her house, I assume by a lake, by Camp Crystal Lake, something like that. And she gets on that small boat and kind of pushes herself out into the lake, rows herself out in the lake, whatever you want to call it. And her dad comes out in a panic, he's on the bridge, or dock, whatever, I guess it's a dock, I don't know, I guess it's a dock, who cares? I guess a bridge connects you from one thing to the other. This is just a dock into the water. It's a really tall dock, too, by the way. She kills him out of fear and out of her hurt and her feelings. And every time she gets some kind of upset, things start telekinetically moving. And so she destroys the dock, and that's how she kills her dad. And he's like gone. Well, from this point on, she's pretty traumatized the rest of her life. But they really don't, in the writing of this film, they really don't make that enough of a thing for Tina. They don't really turn Tina's trauma into much of a thing, and they kind of do stuff here and there. If they had better writers, they could have done better things with it, but they really didn't do much with those things. Personally, I think this film wasn't in it for the intellect. The movie and the creators behind this particular film, The New Blood, were not in this to make a smart movie. They were into this to make a fun movie, and that's really what I think they tried to do. And censorship from the MPAA really harmed them a lot. And I'll get more into that later on as I talk about the special effects and whatever. But essentially, Tina's a grown-up adult now. She is going with her mom and her psychologist therapist, who has some kind of selfish things he's kind of hiding from both of them. He studies telekinesis and whatever. He's trying to help her, but he also wants to become, like, famous. You know, like a Dr. Loomis type that is more like the Halloween 2 Rob Zombie Dr. Loomis, if you will. He really wants fame based around telekinesis stuff and about supernatural abilities and all that. And for whatever reason, a lot of people had an issue with the idea of like a Carrie versus Jason in this situation. I guess it's Tina versus Jason. I don't know, whatever you'd like to call it. Because people said that they didn't like the supernatural abilities being brought in the film. And I've heard that a lot. Not from anybody who's reviewed it in my little collaboration, but from other people over the years. And every time I hear that, I just think, are you fucking stupid? Jason is a zombie. He was brought back with lightning, dude. Are you kidding? Are you truly kidding? That's one of the most unfair criticisms I've ever heard in my life. That's like complaining that the Saw films are too gory. I mean, it's a complaint, yeah, but So? That's what the series has always been. Anyway, so Friday the 13th, The New Blood is essentially focused on Tina also kind of hanging out when she goes back to this home that she grew up in for therapy and healing and whatever. A beautiful house, by the way. This location they shot at in this movie is wonderfully beautiful. I love it. There's also a house across the street that a bunch of young folks are hanging out in for a surprise birthday party for the one love interest guy's boyfriend, or brother, excuse me, not boyfriend, brother. That was weird. And that guy hasn't shown up yet. His name, by the way, is Mike, apparently. The guy that's supposed to come to his surprise birthday party. And everybody keeps waiting around for them, and eventually the few of them there befriend Tina and bring her over to hang out and stuff. Mainly the love interest guy. That's pretty cool. I like him a lot. Good performance from him. The movie doesn't have a lot going for character stuff. Aside from the sketchy therapist who, as Grayson said, is kind of just a douchebag, if you will. That fits him very well. He's also Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's, and I never thought about that. I always thought this guy looked familiar, and I don't even like Weekend at Bernie's, but I never could figure out what he was in. I never gave a shit enough to look at IMDb and find out. And then Grayson said it in his review that this guy was Bernie from Weekend at Bernie's, and I was like, it just blew my mind. It just blew my mind. I could not believe that, dude. Anyway, he gives a solid performance as the kind of sketchy therapist that has his own ways that he wants to make money behind the scenes and not tell the mom or the daughter. The telekinesis stuff is usually shot in reverse, which is not awful most of the time. I actually think it's pretty cool. I'm trying to think of what else I could talk about here. The writing is, like I said, kind of flat for pretty much every character in here. The biggest thing for me, not that the directing is bad, not that anything really in the movie itself is bad. Mind you, I've said over and over again, the latter films from Friday the 13th are really what I like most of the time. Part 7 is no different from that, as controversial as that sounds. That's where I started to get into my controversy. The writing is not strong, and yet I find this movie, the way it's shot, the way Jason looks. By the way, this is the first time Kane Hodder ever played Jason, and this is my personal favorite performance of the guy. As much as I love Jason X, much as I love Jason in Part 8, even though Part 8 kind of sucks ass, this is Kane Hodder's first performance as Jason, and I think he is the best he's ever been at this point. Probably my second favorite Jason, right behind Derek Mears. And he does a wonderful job. But then again, though, the guy from Part 6 was really good, too. I think he might be my second favorite. I don't know, but Kane Hodder's up there. The breathing thing he does, the way he carries himself. Jason is pretty dark and vicious. The way he kind of looks at people when you actually get to see his eyes. He's pretty tense. He's pretty tense in this movie because of the performance of Kane Hodder, who is also a stuntman who's done everything from Victor Crowley movies and the Hatchet series over to this, to doing other things like I think there was a movie called Castle Freak or something I think he was in. Kane Hodder's a legend for a reason. I don't love the guy as Jason, but I think he's really good for what he has to do. He doesn't give like a stiff performance like we could have gotten many a time. And I do think that he probably should have been in Freddy vs. Jason. But, you know, the studios decided not to go that route, so I feel bad for the guy. Because maybe he deserved that amongst the fans. There's a way to shoot certain things, even though they said he was too short. But, I don't know. I don't know. So, where do I even go with more about this movie? Does it seem like I'm kind of got a dry review here? Well, there's a reason for that. It's because this movie is kind of dry. My biggest issue, again, like I said, is this film is not here to be smart. It's not here to be clever like Part 6 was, which is to its detriment in a lot of ways. By the way, Tina is looking into the water when she's an adult, and I don't understand how this telekinetic power, which isn't really just telekinetic stuff, it could be something else. She's looking hard into the lake outside of her old house, and I guess she was missing her dad, who was an alcoholic and an abusive piece of shit, and she is looking into the water really hardcore and resurrects Jason by accident from Part 6, where he was tied up to the rock. Yeah. And Jason comes back. That's how he comes back. I just thought I'd tell you that, just in case you cared, or didn't know. Whatever. Now, the thing for me, the film is not here for intellect and to be clever, but what I was going to say a minute ago before I cut myself off and changed the subject to Jason's resurrection, this movie feels like a TV movie. I don't know how anybody feels about that, but this movie I've watched over and over again. This is one of the ones that I've seen a billion times since I was a kid. Like part 1, like part 4, a lot like that too. I've watched it a billion times over since I was a kid, and I will tell you right now, this film, for the first time ever, I've really realized how much of a TV movie it feels. It feels kind of like a big-budget, cheap movie. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. I think a little bit of it is the Harry Manfredini music. I can't figure it out. Just some of the music is so cheap and cheesy sounding. It feels like the kind of shit you get on Sci-Fi Channel now, like from the Asylum Company. It just, I don't know. A lot of it rubs me the wrong way, if I'm being honest with you. But I still enjoy watching this film, out of nostalgia more than anything. It's kind of got some dry spells in there, but I think some of the most beautiful women are in this movie. Some of the best lead men are in this film, as a matter of fact. Like I said, the one guy who's the love interest, I really like him for whatever reason. I don't know his name. Fuck the names. It's Friday the 13th. You know, who cares? Who knows the names of a lot of these people? Kevin Bacon is known as Kevin Bacon in part 1, as far as I'm concerned. But this movie, it's not the most engaging, wonderful thing ever. But a lot of the time I prefer to watch this over a lot of the earlier movies, even up to 4, I would say. I don't know if I for sure like this more than part 4. I still haven't decided. But part 4 has way better kills and everything. But the censorship and the MPAA, kind of moving on to the practical effects discussion, they killed this movie. And you could tell some of the kills, like an axe to the face, for example, they didn't seem like they would go in a direction that would be super stellar, to me. I feel like a lot of the kills are kind of overrated when you see like the Crystal Lake Memories documentary or His Name Was Jason documentary from back in the day, and you'd hear the guys who worked on this film complaining and saying, like, we had all of these brutal, awesome kills coming. Quite a few of those I could agree. They probably would be really great, and if they had not been chopped out of the film in this 1988 film from the fucking MPAA, you could have had a better movie here. I really do believe that. I really think it would have been more effective. I think some of the kills would have been the best in the franchise, possibly. But some of them are just kind of bland, like an axe to the face or a stabbing. But there's some other ones, like a head crushing, that I would have paid good money to see that. I would have paid good money to see that because it would have looked fucking cool. But even on top of that, we didn't get most of the kills in this film. There's maybe one that you actually get to see what happens, but not really by much. Not really by much. They censored the shit out of this film. And it's a shame, because it's Friday the 13th, and Jason looks so cool in this film. This might be my favorite looking Jason in any of the series. I haven't said that, I don't think, until now, but I really do believe that. I think it is my favorite looking Jason ever in the series. He's so cool looking. Just awesome looking, dude. I don't know how to explain it. It's basically the part 6 costume just eaten up, but like Jason, where he was underwater. Like, the fish and stuff have eaten away at his skin, he's rotted up and whatever, and, like, you'll see, like, his rib cage sticking out and his, like, back and spine sticking out. It's freaking cool, dude. If I was ever going to buy another Friday the 13th figurine, it would be this, and it would be Part 5's Roy. That's it. That's what I would buy. And the Derek Mears figure. I keep meaning to pick that up. I want to get it really bad. The one with the removable mask. That's a Jason figure to me, when it has a removable mask. I don't care what anybody says. Otherwise, it's not a Jason figure. But I need to pick up those at some point in the future, but they're pricey, dude. NECA figures are not cheap at all. They're high quality, but they are not cheap, like when I was a kid. And I'm trying to think, too, of what else can I really talk about with this movie? There's really not much more for me to say, if I'm being honest with you. It's such a meandering review here, and I'm sorry for that. It's just, it's hard to really delve into a film that has so much missing in it. There's a lot missing in here that I really wish was in the movie. And for an hour and like 25 minutes, and then like a 2-minute credits, it's kind of surprising. It's kind of surprising how little there is to this movie. And yet I enjoy watching it. It has that, again, that feel of like a TV movie or like a very low-budget horror film with a big budget. It feels cheap a lot of the time, which you could say is bad filmmaking, but I don't really agree with that. I feel like it's kind of a cozy filmmaking, if you will. Kind of like the original Friday the 13th, when I said that it was a very calming, kind of peaceful movie, even though it's a murder-slasher film and a mystery movie. It has a very peaceful vibe to it when the kids are just hanging out at the docks and trying to assemble the docks together. A lot of that, for whatever reason, is very peaceful to me, and this movie is kind of quaint in that regard, and I don't know why. I don't really get why. There's not like a massive love story. It's your typical cannon fodder characters being killed by the slasher, in this case Jason Voorhees himself, the utter legend. If this had not been a Friday the 13th film with Jason killing people, what would I think of it? I don't know. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know. I still think I would have loved the quaintness of it and the brutality that you kind of get the build-up to, and then you don't really get anything like suspense or tension or the actual visual of somebody being brutalized on camera. It's a shame. It's a shame what they did to this movie, but I also don't hate it. I know a lot of people hate it because of how censored it is, and I understand why. I get the principle and the moral why. I hate the MPAA too. I really do. But, dude, this movie is not a bad movie. I still defend it. I always will defend it. It's not a bad film. It's just a very average movie because of the neutering of the thing, and that's a bummer, because these guys put a lot of effort in this film. You can tell. And the idea and concept of a Carrie versus Jason thing, to me, in the writing of the script is flawed because they treat it the way the Universal Monsters movies used to treat versus films. And when I say that, I mean like Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, for example. They don't even meet until like nearly the end of the film, where they actually have like one fight in the entire movie. They're building up through that hour and 20 or 30 minutes to get to a fight that takes like 2 seconds. And I love the movie. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman is incredible. Don't get me wrong. It's one of my favorites of the Universal Monsters series of films. But they treat this film the way they treated that. Very rarely until the end of the movie do Tina and Jason cross over where they have to have like a fight with her telekinetic powers. And that stuff, I really like what they did with it. And Jason, played by Kane Hodder kills it. He really does. And it's a shame that they neutered his movie, the first one he did. Because dude, he's great here. I really, really enjoy what he does in here. There's some great kills, like the whatever that thing is. It's like a weed whacker, but with a blade. There's stuff like that in here that should have been, like, visually right there in your face you could have seen. Now, and also, in my defense, I talked about the nostalgic feelings I have about this, how I've seen this movie over and over again. I remember the kills being a lot more brutal when I watched this as a kid, but I also watched it on TV more than anything. I don't think I ever rented this film. I just watched it on TV constantly through the AMC Horror Fest I keep bringing up, and every once in a while it would just be on TV during the summer. And I loved it. But I remember the kills being more brutal. I don't know what it is about it, but it's just not, and it's a shame. It's a shame, man. Anyway, I really don't have much more to say about it. The last thing I can really talk about, since I can't really discuss the practical effects because we didn't get to see any of it at all, as neutered as this was. The music, again, Harry Manfredini did this. I talked about it briefly. It's kind of cheap feeling. It kind of cheapens the feel and the impact of a lot of the film. And personally, I don't think it matches a lot of this movie. But I don't, again, I say all that and I understand why people think the movie's bad. But I also still think it's quaint and cozy, and I don't know why. So it's not the worst ever score for Friday the 13th. I really don't think it is, like Part 3. But it's like, it doesn't always serve this movie well. It feels like Manfredini, as talented as he is, just kind of went out for a paycheck in this movie, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. He'd done 7 of these fucking things at this point. 6 of them previous to that. Been working on them at this point for 8 years. So I get why he would phone one in. I get it. You know, every once in a while at least. Because I believe Part 3 was definitely phoned in. Anyway, so with all that being said, that is my thought on Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. I still enjoy it a lot. I have a lot of complaints with the fan base towards this film and how they treat it, but also I have complaints towards, again, the MPAA, who suck ass and just ruin everything, basically. How something like this, in 1988, could be chopped up the way it was. But when I was a kid, in like 2005, I got to see Obi-Wan chop Anakin's arms and fucking legs off, well, 1 arm and 2 legs off, and then watch him burn alive, and still live through it, and then go through surgery for prosthetics, and a suit, and a helmet, and then I got to hear him yell no, but I can't see fucking Jason stab somebody. It's stupid. It's fucking dumb. It proves the point. The MPAA, to me, are focused on what the culture currently accepts, which is another type of censorship, and it's bullshit. It's bullshit, and it's un-American as far as I'm concerned. With all that being said, though, that is my thought on Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. If I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I would give this one probably a 3 out of 5 stars. It's such a mixed bag because of the outside issues, but the movie itself, I think, has a lot of good in it. And I feel like it's unfairly hated by the audience. I really believe that. It's a shame. And man, the poster, dude. Not the poster right here, but the actual one for the thumbnail I showed you. The one that everybody knows with the knife and Carrie, whatever face's name on one, or face on one side of the picture, the hockey mask on the other for Jason. That is like my favorite poster from Friday the 13th. I mean that. It is beautiful. I love it so much. Anyway, what did you guys think about Part 7? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments down in the comment section down below. Let me know everything you have to say about it. And I think I'm like halfway through Part 8 right now. I just want to take a break, review something else. And, because that's a movie. That's a movie, let me tell you. I didn't realize how dry that movie is until I watched it this time around. Usually, like last year, I didn't make it to Part 8. I watched the first 7 last year, and I didn't make it to Part 8. But a lot of the time I do, and I hadn't watched in a couple of years, and I was watching it this time around for these reviews, and I was like, good God, this is a dry movie. Anyway, with all that being said, what do you guys think? Put your thoughts and comments down below again. Thank you all for watching. God bless you guys, and goodbye.